session, good morning Ram. Last session we have discussed about how to create the tables and start storing the data into the database tables. And today we are going to understand what are all the different types of databases are there. We created sample databases in the previous class, and also we started creating some of the tables, and also right, and we started storing the data into the tables as well. Okay, so now here, right, so last session we started creating sample databases and we created some of the tables, and we started storing the data into the tables as well. And today we are going to understand what are all the different types of databases are there. We'll understand we have different types of databases. We are going to see what are all those databases and what is the purpose of each and every database, and also we can see that the scenes behind creating the database tables and databases, all that we'll learn one by one. Okay, this is fine. So now today we are going to see that what is all the databases are there. So here I have the notes, and we'll see that what is the system databases. So now here, if we can, after we connected to the database SQL server, so now here we are connecting to data SQL server here. This is Cspiders is the SQL server ID, chready-pc is the system name, right? In this system we installed SQL server with the ID Cspiders and say connect. Now I just been connected. Now we have connected over here, and if we can expand the databases folder, we can see that system databases, and this is all the databases Crystalspiders Institute. This is all the databases what we have created for to store our data. Right? We can create maximum 32,767 databases in one SQL server. So inside databases folder we are seeing the list of the databases, and at the same way we can see there is another folder called system databases. If we can expand that, we can see that by default there are 4 databases are there. This is a master database, model database, MSDB and TEMPDB. So we are going to see what is the purpose of these databases, and later we are going to learn how to work on these databases, these system databases. Today we are going to understand the purpose of these 4 databases. See, these 4 databases we have not created, right? So these 4 databases automatically available, that means automatically get created during the installation of this SQL server. By default, in any version, in any edition of SQL server we install, so we can see these 4 databases: master, model, MSDB and TEMPDB. So we are not going to use these 4 databases to store our data. The purpose of these 4 databases is completely different. That means these 4 databases will store the data only. These 4 databases also will store that information only. But what data? Who is using that data? Who means SQL server itself will use the data in these 4 databases: master, model, MSDB and TEMPDB. So now we are going to discuss an overview on these 4 databases today. So I'm going to open that notes. I already have the notes for this, and I will discuss that notes. Not this one. Here it is the system databases, and see that now here user defined databases and the system databases. User defined databases and system databases. So we already created user defined databases. The databases which we have created, let's see here: Crystalspiders Institute, Crystalspiders_DBA01, Crystalspiders Institute. All these databases are user defined databases which we have created, and these 4 are system databases. That means these 4 databases got created by server itself. We have not created these 4, and these databases will be created along with installation of SQL server. These system databases will store the system information. That's what that system information will store in these 4 databases, and that information will be used by SQL server itself. And again you see 2 more databases are here: resource database and distribution database. But I am seeing only 4, sir. Where is that resource database? Resource database is always hidden actually. It will not appear. It will not show over here. It will be hidden. Okay, we'll come to that. What is the uses of this database as well. So now master database. What is the use of this master database? So it will store all the information about other databases. That means this master database will store the information about all these databases. What information? What is the database name, and what are all the properties of these databases, and what are all the files are there, what is their name, all that information will be stored. All these databases information is stored in a master information, not data, guys. Inside CSI live database we have so much of data is there. Inside this database we have so many tables are there and so much of data is there. But whatever data we stored in this database, that data will not store in a master database. Here master database will record information about these other databases in this server. Information means which information? What is the database name, what are the files are there in this database. Files we'll discuss that files today. What are the files are there in other databases and their names. All that information is stored in a, what is the size of this database, what are all the properties we set for each database, what properties we set, that properties information, security related information. So who is going to access these databases, what type of access they are having, that security related information will be stored in a master database. And at the same time endpoints, linked server information, all these information will be stored in a master database. And later we are going to discuss what are all these, what is that security, what is the endpoints, what is the linked server, what is the database names, database files, what is this location, size, all this we'll discuss in the coming sessions. And a model database. So this database will be acting as a template for newly creating database. That means you see this, so this is all the databases what we created, right? While creating these databases, what information we given? We just given a database name, that's it. Let me show you now. Here I am going to open new query window. Here I am going to create a database. Example, create a database called January 2021. This is the database name. So how do we create this database? So simple, create database January 2021. That's it. See now here, if we can observe this command, we just given the database name. That's it. We have not given any other information. We have not given any other information. We just given the database name. That's it. But when we created this database, you see that. Let me create this database. After create this database, I have to refresh this folder, databases folder. Right click and say refresh. Now I can see that January. See, this database is created. Right. So let me show you the properties of this database. Right click on the database, go to the properties. Just see that. What properties it will show. What are all things? What are all the items are there, and we'll see that. See that, guys. So now here in a general page, this is all the pages. In a general page, it is noted down what is the database name, right, and the status, who created this database, what date and time it is created, what is the size of the database, and some collation. Go to the files. It is showing 2 files are there. Let me maximize this window now. 2 files are there, and this is one file path. These are the paths of the files. This is the file names. This is what the path. And go to the file groups. There is some information is there, and go to the options, and there is some configurations are set up. This is recovery model is a full, compatibility level is a 120, and some of the options true, false. See that these all the options, sir. I have not passed these options. How come it is a set up these all these options? How this database, while creating this January 2021 database, I have not passed any of these parameters, any of these properties. Then how it is a set up all this? How it is a set up this full? So why don't it set up a simple? Why don't it set up a bulk log? Why it is a selected this collation? Why it is a selected compatibility level 120? Why? Because why don't it take any other value? Why it is taking this 120? That means so when we are creating the database, right, we have not given all those details. So this database, we just given the database name, that's it. While creating this new database, it will inherit all those options, all those properties from model database, because we have not given those details. That's why it is copying all those stuff from model database. That's it. And just creating the database with this name, but all the properties of this database and all the objects, whatever is there inside this database right now, everything it is copied from model database. That's why we are going to refer the model database is the template for newly creating database. Now if we are going to create one database, and that database we just given the database name, we have not given any other details, right? We just given the database name, we have not given any other details. So that database will inherit all the properties from the model database. That's why guys, so when we are creating this database, we have not passed any properties, we have not set up anything, but this January 2021 database still having all those properties. It is copied from model database. Okay, whatever is there inside this model, it will copy simply and create that database, but the name will be whatever name we given, the same name it will create. That's it. Okay, that's why we are going to say that model database is the template for newly creating databases. And the MSDB database, so it will store the information about database backups, database restores information, which databases you take the backup, and what are all the databases we have restored, and the database mail informations and jobs, schedules, all these informations will be stored inside MSDB database. And we are going to learn all these, and we are going to address all these in the coming sessions. How to take the backup, where to put the backup files, right? How to restore the database from your backups, how to set up the database mail, how to send email from the SQL server to any Gmail accounts, Yahoo Mail, Hotmail accounts, and how to create the jobs and schedule the jobs and send out the alert notifications by creating the operators. All that we can check it out one by one. And now we have the next one is the TEMPDB database. Okay, so now here, yes, how do we know that? So now system databases, this is one of SQL query. Select star from sys.sys databases. If we execute this SQL query, so run the above query and check the CR date column to get the database created date and time, and which day and time these databases get created. That means when you install this SQL server, maybe 1 year back, or not 1 year guys, a few months back, maybe 3 or 4 months back. So now here usually we will see that same okay, not that date guys. So that CR date will represents the date at what date and time these databases get created. See that? So now you can ignore these system databases for now guys. System databases, you see it is showing 2003, 2021, all this is. But you see that other databases, this is all user defined databases what I created, and SQL classes is the one I created in the month of December last year. And same SQL training also I created December 15th. And this is all the databases guys what we have, right? And January 2021 Crystalspiders _DB I created just now today, just a few minutes back, 5 minutes back I created January 2021. That is the database. So this is all the database dates. CR date represents on which day we created these databases. Okay. So now we are going to see what is the purpose of TEMPDB. Guys, this is just introduction of these databases. In further sessions we are going to discuss in detail about these system databases. Just this is introduction. So TEMPDB database, it will be utilized by SQL server for storing the data for temporary purpose. For example, now here, okay, so while performing user activities, while performing some of the user activities, SQL server itself will utilize this TEMPDB database. It will use this TEMPDB database to store some data for a temporary purpose. During some of the operations, what are those operations? For example, we are joining huge amount of data in a database, so it will start using the space in the TEMPDB. Or else when we are sorting the data, descending order or ascending order, it will start using the TEMPDB database. Okay, this is all fine. So this database will be dropped and created. Which database? TEMPDB database. So this TEMPDB database will be dropped means removed. We already seen that in the last two sessions how to remove the database from the database. The command is drop database name. Similar way, this database will be dropped and created when the SQL server service is restarted. SQL server service means we already discussed. So now as soon as when we install SQL server in our mission, we can see that SQL server service will get created. Right? See that. Let me open this file. You see that? Okay. Yeah. So when we install SQL server in our system, we got that SQL server service. We can see that SQL server service by using configuration manager, and right click on the service and say restart. It will be restarted, or else you can stop and start it. So when we stopped this SQL server service, or else when we restarted this SQL server service, at that time this database TEMPDB database will be deleted automatically. We can't delete it. Right click and we can't say delete, guys. We can't delete any of these 4 databases by saying the drop database name. No, that command will not work for TEMPDB database. That TEMPDB database will be automatically dropped and created it again during the restarting of the SQL server service. So how many ways we can restart the SQL server services? We already seen it, right? So open the configuration manager. Let's open configuration. I'm going to type, just simply say configuration, say just a configuration, automatically SQL server configuration is came, configuration manager. Open this configuration manager, and I'm going to say opening this configuration manager. And in this configuration manager, what is that SQL server? Which SQL server we are talking about? This is a chread-pc/cspiders. Cspiders is the SQL server I am talking about, cspiders. So what I can do, before I am going to restart this SQL server service, cspiders, this is what, guys, this is SQL server service, the name is cspiders. Right click and say restart. Before I restart, what is going to be happening, guys? If I say restart, the TEMPDB database, inside this SQL server we have the TEMPDB database. That TEMPDB database will be dropped and created it. So let me do one thing. Let me see that what is the date on which day this TEMPDB is created. TEMPDB is created on same today at 5:58, because I started this laptop today morning at 5:58. At the time this SQL server service is started, and at the time this TEMPDB is created 5:58 a.m. So what I am going to do that now. So this is what the time it is currently showing. I am going to restart the system again. I am going to restart, not system, this is SQL server service. Right click and say restart. I am going to restarting, guys. So that means during this restart process, the same database TEMPDB will be dropped and created. So now the time is 10:24 a.m. So at the same time that will show that here, maybe 10:25 or maybe close to 10:24 a.m. it will show that here. Just wait until it is come back. It is getting stopped in this service now. Once it is started back, once it is came back to the started, then we can see that. Okay. Just give me a minute, let it come. It is getting stopped now, guys. It will come back. Just wait a minute. It is refreshing. I just say refresh. Let's wait for a minute, guys. It will come. Sorry. Requesting data from WMI provider. It is a final. It is a stopper. I think we have to start. I think am I say start or restart? Yeah. Let's say right click at start. Guys, our system is becoming very slow. I don't know. Processes consuming more time. FCC, active presenter, DWM, SSMS. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to close all these applications, guys. Okay, it is going to be started, guys. Just wait a minute. Once it is started, then we can go back to that SSMS component and we can run that query again, and we can see that what is happened. I think there is a problem. So this is unable to start, guys. The problem is there is some issue. So I'm going to check it out, that issue. Just give me a minute. It is started. Somehow this was a thrown error, guys, but it is started. I think system is running very slow, guys, because I am using that recording and all that. That's the reason it is a system is becoming very slow. That's why I hesitate to record the class, live classes. Yeah, okay, this is fine. So now here let me go back. Yeah, anyway, it is restarted, and I am going to connect it. This is all connections are closed, guys. We have to refresh all these, all these connections are closed. Actually internally all these connections are closed, terminated. Again we need to reconnect all that. Let's see that. If I say execute, it is connected. Let's see the TEMPDB database. It is showing now. TEMPDB database created date, CR date is, it is showing today date, just now, just a few seconds back, even not one minute, 1 second, 1 minute, 10:26:38 AM it is created TEMPDB, because just now we restarted the SQL server service. That is the reason TEMPDB is just now it is created. That's what here TEMPDB is recreated when we restarted the SQL server service. So restarting the SQL server manually means doing it by DBA. Now we restarted the SQL server by using configuration manager window, or else we can also restart the same SQL server service from services.msc also. So go to the run prompt, open the run, from the run type that services.msc and open that services.msc here, and it will open all the services window. In that window we can see all the services which are there in this laptop. That will show that SQL server services also, guys. So that means we can see that SQL server services from two places. One is services window, another one is configuration manager. So now just keep on scroll down slowly. We can see that SQL server here, SQL server Crystalspiders. Currently it is started. It is already running state. Started means it is already running state. Other SQL servers also there. Total four more SQL servers there. But these are not started. These are currently in a stopped state. I don't want this anymore. I don't want these services, right? Yeah. Right now only one is enough. Later sessions will install 3 or 4 SQL servers and we will do some practice. But right now one SQL server is enough. Just install only one. So this is what it is started. And right click here and we can restart. So either from this window also we can do the restart. So two places we restarted, or else restart the whole computer. So if we restarted this whole my laptop, then these services will get restarted automatically. So the DBA should not do these activities. So that means we are not going to do that. We never and ever restart the whole computer, guys, in a real-time environments. So there should be the Windows administrators or network or infrastructure team. They are going to restart these whole systems. They are the authorized people to restart these whole systems. Okay, we are not the people. Even though if we have the access, we should not do that. Okay. So now the create time and the time of TEMPDB also represents the last SQL server services as restarted date and time. That means, so now here the create date and time of TEMPDB. So by seeing this TEMPDB create date and time, I can simply say that by seeing this date and time, I can say that this is the date and time when you have restarted your SQL server services. When you have restarted your SQL server services, by seeing this TEMPDB create date and time, I can tell that so and so date and time you restarted SQL server service. From this date and time onwards, service SQL server service is in a running state. It is a very simple, guys. Usually, so our DBS will identify when we have restarted our SQL server services. When was the last time we have restarted the SQL server service? How do we verify? Just check it out, the create date of the TEMPDB database, and which date and time this TEMPDB database gets created. That is the what date and time when this SQL server service is restarted last time. Okay, that's what here the information about the TEMPDB database. This is what the system database is. What we have the 4 databases, and the resource database is in a hidden. That means the resource database, we can't see this resource database in our SQL server. The purpose of resource database is different. We'll discuss it during the upgradation works. At the time of upgradation, I will highlight this resource database. And distribution database, this is also one of the system database. This database will be created when we turn on or configured the replication on this server. In this chready, in the Crystalspiders SQL server, if we have turned on replication features. This is a replication folder. Here we have not yet configured distribution. Once we configure replication configurations on this SQL server, then we can see one more database in system databases. That database is called distribution database. That distribution database is for replication purpose. We'll do that in a coming sessions. Okay. So this is all, guys, what we have the system databases, the introduction of the system databases, and this is fine. And now we are moving on to the other concept, guys. Again we will come back to here and we'll do that all. So now I'm going to create a table, guys. Again, let's do the same thing what we have done that earlier. So now I'm going to connect into model database. Sir, this model database is a system database. So even though this is model database is a system database, we can create it, guys. Just 1 minute. Okay. So now we have this model database. So we are going to connect into model database, and in this model database I am going to create a table. The table name is Emp Table, and I am going to create this table in a model database. So first, how do you connect it to model database? Use space database name, and then now I connected. So once I connected, I can see that the database name in the right side corner, in the bottom right side corner, we can see the database name, use model. So let's go ahead and create this table. I'm going to create this table. Where it will create it? It will create it in the model database. Of course, we can create these tables in a system databases also. That's what model database. So we have to specify the size on text-based columns. That is var of size, n var of size, char of size, something like that. We have to specify. That's why we specified n var of 25, n var of 100. And n var or var, either both are same, guys. Okay, but a little bit there is some differences are there in the storage level. So insert into the Emp table values. So now I am going to insert the same values into this table, Emp table. Let's insert. Okay. Let's check it out. What data is there in employee table? So just now we inserted one record, so we can see that record here. And I am going to insert few more records. 3 records I am going to insert. Okay, and check it out the data in employee table. So now I can see that total 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 employees. So I'm going to update all these employees addresses, guys. So I'm going to set their addresses to USA. So now here, this is what that this is how we are going to update. We are going to updating the data. We are going to update specific data in the table in the records. For suppose I want to update, I'm going to set address for all these employees. So now update the employee table, set address equal to USA. So for all these fields, I'm going to set USA. So let's execute that command and go back and check it out the data. So select star from EMP, check the data. So now I can see the address is set in all these address, in all these, for all those people we set the address. So or else, no sir, I want set the address only for specific people. So for that we are going to use, see now here, update employees, set address equal to, let's say instead of USA I am going to put IND, India, where ID equal to 3. That means for the employee ID 3, whoever the employee ID is 3, that means this guy. For this guy I am going to set address is India. So let's check it out. So now only one record affected, that means only one record is. So let's check it out the data. So to check the data, we are going to write select star. Star represents all columns I want to display. From which table? From EMP table. Let's execute. So now we are seeing that it is updated address for this employee IND. And now here you see this, I am going to update address to UK. For which records? For whose name is Scott. There are 2 people are there with the same name Scott. That means for these 2 people their address will become UK. See this update statement is going to update address in the 2 records. Those records whose name is equal to Scott. So now it is 2 rows are affected. This it is showing up, 2 rows are affected. Okay. So let's check it out the data in employee table. Yeah. Now we can see that data. This is what the address UK it is showing for these 2 people. And the same way we are going to delete the data. So for suppose I want to delete only person whose ID is 1, let's say whose employee ID is 1, I want to delete that guy only. That means whose employee ID is 1, this guy CHD going to delete. Only one record it will delete. So that record is deleted. So let's go back and check it out. The data is not there in employee table. See that the data is not there. So for suppose if I am going to execute this statement will delete 2 records, since there are 2 people are there with the same name Scott. That's why these 2 people will get deleted. Employee ID 3 and 4 will get deleted. So otherwise, if you select only this one, just delete from employee, that's it. I am not specifying whom I want to delete. So in this case, it will delete all the records, whatever the data is there in Emp table, all those records will get deleted from the table. That's what here it is, delete from Emp. So now let me execute this delete from Emp. It will delete all those 3 records and no records are there in employee table. It's completely empty now. Table is there but empty, no data. So this is how we are inserting, updating and deleting the data in the database tables. Okay, this is a fine, sir. Sir, now when we are storing the data, let's say now we created in MSDB in a model database. So let's go to the model database. In this model database, right, we created one table. What is that table name? Employee table. Not only in a model database, guys, we can connect it to any of this database we can create. Okay. So now here let me go back. I'm moving on to the another file, guys. Database files. Okay. So this is fine, right? Okay guys, so now this is how we are going to inserting the tables and storing that, creating the tables and inserting the data into those tables. So this is fine. In a similar way I'm going to connect into different database. Let's say our database is there, Crystalspiders Institute _01 database. In this database under the tables folder, we created a last session couple of tables and we practiced the same type of commands over here. So now what I can do, I'm going to connecting. Let me comment out this command and I will connecting now, connected to the Crystalspiders _DBA_01 database. So how do we connect? So now we are connecting user space Crystalspiders _DBA_01 database. Okay, now we connected. Select all these commands, select this database, click execute. Now we connected to that database. You see that in the right side bottom we can see that same name is appearing over here. That means we connected to this database. So now what I'm going to do, that I'm going to select all these commands, guys. I'm going to select all these commands up to update. I don't want to select that delete commands. So I selected all these commands and I am going to execute now. If I click execute button, what will happen? It will execute all these commands top to bottom one by one. First it will create the table in which database? Crystalspiders DBA01 database, and then it will insert the record, and then it will read the data from the employee table and then insert, and then 2 more inserts and then 3 updates. Let's see that. See this, guys, all these commands are executed. Let's go back and finally see what data is there in employee table. Now I can see all the data is there. Up to this statement we executed all the commands in one shot. And in this table I can see finally this is what the data is there in the table. So now this is all fine, and now here we are going to understand one thing. Sir, when we create a database, when we create this new database, it will create some files, guys, internally. First my question is, sir, we created this database and we created the tables here and we started storing the data in these tables. This is all fine, but where this data is storing, how this data is manipulating here, that's what we are going to understand by understanding the architecture of the database. Okay, so now we are slowly moving on to the architecture of the database. In this architecture of the database, we are going to understand the files. What is the files? What is the usage of the files? So now here, so guys, whenever we create a database, whenever we create any database, it will create 2 files. It will create 2 files in the system, in the hardware, in the hard disks. So let me show you this diagram here. See this, guys. So I think okay, this is my whiteboard. I used this file long back in the classroom sessions. I don't want to use this anymore now. Let me close this. So now I'm going to open my paint box. So this is now here, and I'm going to use this one. So this is my system, guys. Just assume this is my computer. Okay, we are going to understand the architecture of the database. Not complete, guys. Architecture of the database, it will take 10 classes. Okay, but we are going to start the introduction. This is my computer. Okay, and in this computer I have hard disks, right? C drive, D drive, E drive, something like that. Let's assume that is a C drive in my machine. I'm going to put a formally few drives, guys. This is C drive and this is a D drive and this is E drive. These are the drives, 3 drives. Okay, and so this is my SQL server, right? This is the SQL server. Inside this SQL server we have created the databases. Just assume, guys, this is SQL server. Okay, and I'm going to put that same note here. This is MS SQL server. MS SQL server. Inside this server, guys, inside this SQL server service, let's assume we have the databases. Let's assume this is my database, one of the database here. And we are going to create these databases. Okay, fine, perfect. So many databases are there. Just along with these two, just assume like this, we can create these 4 other system databases, something like that. And along with these databases, we can also have some more databases. It doesn't matter, guys, how many databases are there. It doesn't matter. This concept is applicable for every database. Okay, this is fine. See, now here, guys, when we create one database, let's assume this database name, we have to give one database name. This is my DB1 and this is the database name DB2. Just give one formal names, guys. Okay, let me say this is my sales data. This is the database name sales. Okay, in this database we are going to create the tables, all that. That's the secondary discussion. Let me save this file first, guys. Okay, so as soon as when we create a new database, that database will create 2 files, guys. One is that will create in a C drive or D drive, wherever it is, I don't care. It will create 2 files in the one default path in the C drive. There is a default path is there. In that path it will create 2 files. Every database will create a minimum 2 files. Every database will have 2 files on the C drive. Every database, guys. Every database will have minimum 2 files in the C drive. By default, every database will have 2 files in the C drive. And we can change this path also, guys. Sir, why only C drive? Why not in a D drive? We can change it later. But by default, it will all these having 2 files, guys. Every database, even system databases also will have 2 files in a C drive. Okay. So this is all fine. So now here, when we create a database, every database will have 2 files on the C drive. Okay, sir, how do I see that? How do we see this? These are the databases. What are those 2 files and where those 2 files are there? So now I am going to show that. So how do you check it out? Where that database of files are there? So we can check it out like this. So now here 10.2. Check the database files. Every database will create 2 files. Every database minimum 2 files, guys. And maximum we can have it later. We can put so many databases. So I'm going to create one database that is called the country database. Let's create it. Country database name, and let's refresh this databases folder. So do refresh. Now I can see that country database. And in this database, verify the files on the country database. First, how do you verify what files are there? So when I created this country database, this database will internally will create two files on a C drive, and this database will create two files on C drive. This database also two. This database is also this. Every database will have two files on a C drive, minimum two files. Sir, how do I know that this database? What are the files are there? First, we need to connect it to that database. So now user space database name. So now first I am going to connecting to that database, and then second step is run this statement to display all the files for this database. Right now, what database we connected? Country database. In the country database, to see what files are there in this country database, exec space sp underscore help. If you execute this one, it will show what are all the files are there. See that this country database is having a total two files. These are two records, mean this is one file, this is another file. And C drive program files, this is the path and this is the file country.mdf file. And next it is having one more file C. Every database, guys, this is the default path. C program files, this is the default path. See, now I want to see all the databases files are. That's where, see, that master database will store all these databases files information in the master database. Inside this master database, I already highlighted this note just before today, beginning of the class. I highlighted master database will store the information about all these databases. So now here the master database, let's connect it to the master database and execute this SQL query and get the data from the master database. This SQL query will give all the databases. Just 1 minute. I don't need all these columns, just these two are enough. See this, guys. So now it is showing what is the database name? Master is having total two files. Which path? Same C drive. TEMPDB is having two files. Model database is having two files. MSDB two files. See that every database is having minimum two files. One is you see, one file is .mdf file and another file is .ldf. See, every database, see, country is also having two files on the same C drive, MDF file, LDF file. So this is what we are seeing. So create a database by specifying your own file and path. Sir, now here when I am creating this database, I didn't specify this path. That's why it took this. That's why it has taken default paths. But I want to create the database by specifying D drive. Put those database files in the D drive. So how do we do this? That's where we are going to see that in the next session. Not now. In the next session, we are going to see that how to create, how to manipulate these paths on the server. That is on tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll meet. And here that same notes, whatever we discussed so far, I have that notes over here in this file. How to know that? How do we know that where these files getting created? By using the GUI, we can also see that same thing. So now we saw that database of files by executing this command sp underscore. But without executing the commands, without writing these commands, we can also check it out where I can see the files of this database, country database. We created that country. Right click on the database and go to the properties. Go to the properties here and then go to the files. Just wait, guys, it is opening up. My system is a little bit slow today. And go to the files, and here you see expand this window, and here you see this is what I highlighted in these notes. How do we know that where these files getting created? How do we know that where the database files, getting created? How do we know that? Just right click on the server. Okay, database files. How do we know that? Which path? Why these databases are using this path, C drive program files? Because we already set up this path in the server. That's why those are using that path. Where? So now here, right click on the server. Guys, here, right click on this server here. Just right click over here and go to the properties, and then go to the database settings. And in the settings, you see you already set data where you want to store these files, data files and log files. we already set up this path. That's why automatically those databases are storing their files in these paths. Log file in the same path. For data and log file, let me maximize this one, guys. You see that these two paths are same. For data file and log file, it is showing same path. For backups, it is a folder is different, backup folder in the same path. But here we can focus on for now data and log. That's why, guys, you can, if you can change these paths, then the databases will put their files in that latest path. That's what, guys, tomorrow we'll practice changing these paths, all that in a tomorrow session. So how to verify the type of database files? How do we know which type of file it is in a database? So now here execute that file sp_help file and check that column usage. If that shows the data only, then it is a data file. If it is showing log file only, then it is a transaction log file. Where we can see this one, guys, here when we executed sp_help file. So I'm going to connecting to country database and execute this one, right? Here you see usage only column, usage only, data only, log only means this is what the data file. Wherever you see data only, that is a data file. Wherever we see log only, that is a log file. And these things will come later, guys, and tomorrow session we'll discuss in detail about these files, how to create. I'm going to create some other databases, and I want to make sure those databases files should be on the different drive. Different drive means C drive, D drive, E drive. One file on a D drive, another file on a E drive. How do I make sure that, sir? All that will come in the coming sessions. Guys, we'll meet on tomorrow same time 10 o'clock and we'll continue the class.